Dornishmen. The Dornishmen, commonly referred to as the Dornish, are the inhabitants of Dorne, one of the constituent regions of Westeros. Like the Northmen and the ironborn, the Dornish have a unique culture, law system, and ethnic background that sets them apart from the rest of the Seven Kingdoms. In the case of the Dornish, this is due to the intermingling of Westerosi inhabitants of the region predominantly of First Men and Andal origins with Rhoynar refugees who fled Essos to escape conquest by the Valyrian Freehold and eventually settled in Dorne. Due to their Rhoynar blood, Dornishmen tend to possess olive skin, black hair, and dark eyes. The Rhoynar who migrated to Westeros converted to the faith of the Seven, but in many ways they simply picked and chose which rules they wanted to follow while ignoring those they disagreed with. As a result, the religion is interpreted more loosely in Dorne than in other parts of the Seven Kingdoms, though its followers are no less devout, with several unique variations and local customs. The Rhoynar also switched to speaking the common tongue of the Andals, but even in the present day, Dornishmen speak with a distinctive accent not heard elsewhere in the Seven Kingdoms. This is acknowledged in the episode Unbowed, Unbent, Unbroken, when Jaime Lannister cautions Bronn against singing too loudly, for fear that his non-Dornish accent might give them away. Of course, Oberyn Martell remarks to Tyrion that from his Dornish perspective, it's the Lannisters and everyone else in Westeros who have an odd accent. In the rest of the Seven Kingdoms, the Dornish have a reputation for being hot-blooded and sexually licentious. Indeed, Dornishmen have more relaxed views towards sexuality and love than the rest of Westeros. Paramours are not shunned or kept in secret, instead they are held in a similar status as a lawful wife or husband, and it is not unusual for noblewomen as well as men to have paramours. The Dornish also have no particular stigma against homosexual behavior. Similarly, bastards do not carry the stigma of being born out of wedlock and are raised along their trueborn siblings and cousins, though they are still considered poor matches for marriage due to their inability to receive inheritance. Prince Oberyn mentions at Joffrey's wedding that his people do not despise bastards because they are born out of passion. Dornishmen are the natives of Dorne in the southernmost part of Westeros. They have a reputation for hot-bloodedness and sexual licentiousness. They are viewed with some mistrust and rivalry by the people of the Dornish marches in the neighboring Stormlands and the Reach. Dornish bastards of noble origin are given the surname Sand. Ethnicity. In Dorne, the descent from the Rhoynar is strongest. The Rhoynar were a slender people with smooth olive skin, black hair and dark eyes. Their impact on the Dornish gene pool is strongest along the coast and grows faint farther inland. Dornishmen with more Andal and First Men blood are larger and fairer than those with more Rhoynish blood. According to King Daeron I Targaryen's observations during his wars in Dorne, there are three groups of Dornishmen. Salty Dornishmen live along the coasts, mainly along the Broken Arm region, where the Red Mountains stretch out into the Sea of Dorne. These Dornishmen are lithe and dark, with smooth olive skin and long black hair, having been most strongly influenced by the Rhoynar. The Martells of Sunspear would be considered salty Dornishmen. Sandy Dornishmen live in the deserts and the long river valleys. With faces burned brown by the hot Dornish sun, they are even darker than the salty Dornishmen. These may include the Eulos and Corgyles, houses which were founded by adventurers who braved the deserts. Stony Dornishmen live in the passes and heights of the Red Mountains. They have the most Andal and First Men blood. Some stony Dornishmen might follow Andal rather than Rhoynar laws of inheritance. They are fair of skin, freckle or burn in the sun, and have brown or blonde hair. These include the Ironwoods with their blonde hair and blue eyes, the yellow-haired Fowlers, and the pale blonde or dark-haired Danes. Additionally, a fourth, smaller group exists. The Orphans of the Green Blood are pure Rhoynar who ply the green blood in pole boats. Despite attempts by the Red Princes to extirpate it by outlawing it, they are said to still speak the Rhoynish language discreetly. Arya Stark, a northern girl, grew up being told that all Dornishmen are small and swarthy, with black hair and small black eyes. Rowan Weber also mistakenly believed that all Dornishmen are small. Culture. Dornish culture has First Men and Andal origins, but is also strongly influenced by the mass immigration of the Rhoynar who settled in Dorne during the Rhoynar migration. Their influence can be observed in many Dornish customs, including the laws of inheritance. In Dorne, unlike the other six kingdoms, no distinction is made between sons and daughters. Instead, children inherit in order of birth regardless of gender, as per Rhoynish custom. In the case of an inheriting female, her last name will be passed on to her children, instead of the name of her husband. Furthermore, views on bastardy are milder in Dorne compared to the rest of Westeros. Especially when a child is born to a paramour, the Dornish are not greatly concerned if a child is born in wedlock or out of it. Many lords and some ladies in Dorne have paramours, and homosexuality is more accepted. Language. The Dornish speak the common tongue, as does the rest of the Seven Kingdoms. But unlike in the other kingdoms, their speech is marked by the influences of the language of the Rhoynar. This influence can be found all over Dorne, but most strongly among the salty Dornishmen, who have the most Rhoynish blood. The Dornish speak with a Dornish drawl, stretching, rolling, or lilting some words. Some describe the Dornish speech as charming. The Marcher Lords often claim to find the Dornish accent impossible to understand, however. Religion. The Dornish primarily follow the faith of the Seven, although red temples of the Lord of Light, Walolar, can also be found within Dorne. Fashion. The Dornish climate favors loose, layered robes. Dornish nobles prefer to wear robes of linen, satin, silk, or samite, accessorized with jeweled belts. Dornish armor is heavily enameled and inlaid with burnished copper, shining silver, and soft red gold, with cloaks over it to keep the sun off. Similarly, it is Dornish fashion to wrap helmets in long scarfs, to prevent the sun from beating down upon it. When crossing the deserts of Dorne during daytime, veils are used to keep the sands out of their faces. Culinary arts. Dornish prefer spicy food. Snake sauce preferably has a drop of venom in it, as well as mustard seeds and dragon peppers. The Dornish produce their own wines, often called Dornish Reds. These wines are generally sour, though they occasionally can be more rich of taste. Strong wines from Dorne are as dark as blood, with a sweet taste. Military. Dornishmen prefer round metal shields, spears, short-throwing spears, or double-curved bows. Fabled are the Dornish sand steeds. These horses are slim and swift, with elegant heads, long necks, and flowing manes. They are considered to be the most beautiful horses in the Seven Kingdoms. They are smaller than regular war horses and light-boned, and so are unable to bear the weight of armor. However, they can run for near 2 days and a night before tiring, needing only a few drinks of water over the course of a day and a night. The least populous of the Seven Kingdoms, the Dornish seem to favor different tactics in battle than the rest of the realm. The warm climate of Dorne and the scarcity of water in the desert make the movement and supply of a large army difficult. This has proven to have been an advantage during wars, as many hosts which have entered Dorne over time have withered and broiled on the hot red Dornish sands. For example, many of the men from Lord Harlan Tyrell's host died of sun and thirst during their march on Hellholt during the First Dornish War. The Dornish have not been a seafaring culture since Princess Nymeria's burning of her ships, with Sunspear never being a sea power. Dornishmen have a reputation for using poison. History. The Dornish have often fought across the Red Mountains and the Dornish marches with the Reach and the Stormlands. The Dornish fought House Targaryen in several wars, including the First Dornish War and the conquest of Dorne. They finally joined the Seven Kingdoms during the reign of King Daeron II Targaryen. The presence of Dornishmen in Daeron's court was one of the causes of the First Blackfyre Rebellion, however. In the books. In the A Song of Ice and Fire novels, present-day Dornishmen are the result of the Rhoynar migration, in which the Rhoynish people, led by Princess Nymeria, united Dorne with the aid of Prince Mors Martell, who brokered a marriage alliance with her. The level of Rhoynar blood in the Dornish gene pool varies depending on proximity to the coast, becoming weaker as one moves further inland. King Daeron I Targaryen, during his conquest of Dorne, classified the Dornish into 3 groups. Salty Dornishmen, who live along the coasts, and in the densely populated river valleys of eastern Dorne. They have the most Rhoynar ancestry and tend to be dark-featured, with smooth olive skin and black hair. They are typically short and lithe in build. House Martell is part of this group. Sandy Dornishmen, who live in the harsh deserts of central Dorne. Their faces are burned brown by the hot Dornish sun, and their features are even darker than the salty Dornishmen, even though they have a little less Rhoynar ancestry. Conversely, they are slightly taller than salty Dornishmen. House Euler, of whom Ilaria Sand is a bastard daughter, is part of this group. Stony Dornishmen, who live in the passes and heights of the Red Mountains in western Dorne, the only part of Dorne which has a land border with the rest of the Seven Kingdoms. They have the most Andal and First Men blood, because few Rhoynar settled that far inland. As a result, they mostly resemble people from the rest of the Seven Kingdoms in looks, customs, and traditions. They are brown-haired or blonde and fair-skinned, with faces that are freckled or burned by the sun. House Dane, including the famed swordsman Ser Arthur Dane, is part of this group, as well as his sister Ashera Dane. Additionally, there is a smaller, 4th group of pure Rhoynish blood. They call themselves the Orphans of the Green Blood. Orphans, because they still mourn the loss of their distant homeland along the Rhoyne River, which they worship as Mother Rhoyne, and so continue to practice the traditions and religion of their river-faring ancestors. They are established along the Green Blood River, plying pole boats. The Rhoynish influence extends to the laws and culture of the Dornishmen, which remains unique despite Dorne's unification with the Seven Kingdoms. Equal primogeniture is still practiced, with elder daughters standing higher in lines of succession than younger brothers and still bearing the family name. Homosexuality and bisexuality are likewise tolerated by the Dornish and don't carry the stigma they do in the rest of the Seven Kingdoms. The Dornish are often colloquially referred to as vipers, both by themselves and outsiders, much as the Northmen are often called wolves because they were ruled for centuries by the Starks. This is due to the large number of venomous snakes in the deserts of Dorne and in the treacherous mountain passes that lead into it from the west. Oberyn Martell gained the nickname of the Red Viper due to his habit of coating his weapons in lethal poisons. The Dornish also enjoy hot spices in their foods, which do not grow in other regions of Westeros. Some of their hotter spices are said to use trace amounts of snake venom as an ingredient. The World of Ice and Fire Sourcebook, 2014, explains that while the modern Dornishmen are a variable mixture of First Men, Andal, and Rhoynar bloodlines, the Andals had less impact on Dorne than any other region of Westeros. The First Men migrated to Dorne over a land bridge, which previously connected Westeros and Essos, but the Andals crossed the narrow sea in ships, and thus could pick and choose where they wanted to invade, in a migration lasting several centuries. The Andals were aware that Dorne had a harsh desert climate with comparatively few resources, unlike the rich green lands of central Westeros. For that matter, it was also quite far away from their homeland by ship. Andalos is located due east from the Vale and Blackwater Bay, and indeed the Andals first landed in the Vale. This also explains why comparatively few tried to land in the north by ship, where they were beaten back into the sea by the Starks. After the migration period by sea ended, it was even more difficult for neighboring Andal kingdoms in the Reach or Stormlands to invade by land through the mountains and deserts. As a result, there is very little Andal blood in the Dornish ethnic makeup, and even less than the First Men, all overlaid by the later Rhoynar migration. Houses from the Red Mountains of the West, the Stony Dornishmen, date back to the time of the First Men, the Danes, Fowlers, and Ironwoods. A few Andal adventurers did go to Dorne, and many of them intermarried with local noble families to create new ones. These include the Eulers, Corgyles, Bates, Illyrians, Jordanes, and Santagars. Even the Martells were founded by an Andal adventurer named Morgan Martell. Still, this was not a vast migration of an entire people, the way the Andals settled in some other regions. A handful of Andal sellswords went to Dorne, carved out names for themselves, and eventually intermarried with the local nobility. There were so few of them and they brought so few followers that soon afterwards their impact on Dorne's ethnic makeup was subsumed. Dorne was overwhelming First Men by blood by the time the Rhoynar migrated to Dorne 1,000 years ago. Nymeria herself married Mors Martell, and their descendants frequently married the other mostly Rhoynar families that settled in eastern Dorne, to the point that in modern times the Martells are held up as an example of a family with classic Rhoynar physical features. The only long-standing impact that few Andal adventurers had on Dorne was that they brought about the conversion of the land to the faith of the Seven. The background of the Blackmonts and Manwoodies has not been mentioned, but as Stony Dornishmen they are probably more First Men than Andal, like the Danes or Ironwoods. In the east, no mention has been made about the background of the Tollans, Gargalans, and Dalts, though either way like the Martells these salty Dornishmen now have mostly Rhoynar bloodlines.
If you like this content, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you later, bye bye.